today is an incredibly tough day for our program, specifically for the players on this team. Going forward, our priority is to support them both immediately and as the season unfolds. I had to make an incredibly difficult decision today for a change in leadership of our football program. Couldn't have more respect for Coach CHRYST, for who he is, for what he stands for his commitment to this place. First and foremost, to our student athletes, to our players. Nobody has their best interests at heart or cares about them like Coach CHRYST, and so just couldn't say anything better about Coach CHRYST right now. I'm tasked with making difficult decisions about the future and of the direction of this program, and I felt at this point in time that a change was needed. I met with Coach CHRYST this morning. We had a long meeting. We talked about it, and we agreed to move on with this change and this decision. We're fortunate to have Coach Leonhard here on our staff, confident that he can lead this team through the balance of this season. That's our priority right now. Our priority is to make sure that these kids get the most out of this season and out of their experience at Wisconsin. So I'm comforted by the fact that Jimmy's on staff, and I'm confident that he'll do a great job. Again, I can't discredit the amount of people this affects, specifically Coach CHRYST and his family, our current players, the staff around this. It's a big decision, and it's got implications that are not lost on me. But really thankful to have been able to work side by side with Coach CHRYST through some incredibly exhilarating positive moments and some tough ones like today. And so we'll push forward, and we'll push forward this season under Coach Leonhard's leadership, and our focus will be on making the most of this season for our team. Thanks.
Obviously, a very emotional day for myself and our staff and our players. We have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach CHRYST and everything he's done for this program. And his family and this program mean everything to him, and I think it's our duty, my duty as a coach, and to get our staff and players to rally, behind him and really fulfill everything that he had envisioned for this team, which we still think is out there. And it's unfortunate, myself, I had a long relationship with Coach CHRYST as a player, mentoring me, as I got into coaching. This man hired me with zero coaching experience and named me his coordinator a year later. So very emotional day for myself. And with that being said, it's, a dream for myself coming out of that nightmare. And I want to respect him and his family in all ways. And this place means a ton to myself. And it means so much to everyone who's committed to be here with the athletic department, the players, the faculty, the coaching staff, and we want more, we want better, and that's my goal, is to try to help get us in that direction in a unique time. And I'm up to that task, and I'm excited for that journey that we're about to go on, but definitely a very emotional day for all of us involved.
Thank you, Jim. We'll take questions now, and again, just raise your hand, and we'll get a microphone from either side. We could start right here in the front, and then we'll go to Jesse.
Hey, Chris. Alex Grover, the ESPN Madison. What did you see this season that led you to think an in-season change was the right move here?
Yeah, I think, this isn't certainly not a decision that's taken lightly. It's not a game-by-game decision. This is a decision that's based upon where we're at as a program. And, I think it's important to make a decision when I feel it's the right time given the circumstances of where we're at as a program right now. And so it's a tough time to make a transition, but I felt it was the right time, and that's what led me to it.
Jesse Temple, The Athletic. Chris, it's been reported that Paul's buyout was somewhere between, I don't know, $16 or $19 million. Can you provide any clarity on where that's coming from, or was a decision made that kind of changes that number?
Yeah, Jesse, we'll share more about the specifics of where we ended up with Paul at a future date soon. What I can tell you today is that the number that we agreed to is significantly less than the numbers that have been reported, or even the number that would have been due per the terms of his contract.
Colton.
Colton Bartholomew, Wisconsin State Journal. Chris, you said this decision comes from where you're at as a program. Where do you feel like you're behind or lacking or not where you want to be as a program to make this decision?
Yeah, Colton's good question. I've made it a practice of not commenting on the specifics of our program or our personnel or the players on it or the coach. What happens in the details. That's the role of a coach, and so those are the kind of questions that going forward will be directed to Jimmy. I would just comment more holistically on where we're at. The expectations of our program at Wisconsin are to win championships, and I felt that it was time. It was the right time to make a change to pursue those.
On the left over here, Colton.
Colton Lesky, NBC 15. How were the players informed, and what was their reaction to the news?
Yeah, we, Coach CHRYST, Coach Leohnard, and I met with the team this evening. We had a closed-door meeting with everybody around the program. Goes without saying, and I mentioned it earlier. It's a tough day for us all, given how much we all cared for and how much we love Coach CHRYST. His players are first on that list in terms of how much they care for him, and it was a tough meeting, and it's one that's in my mind going to live in that meeting room.
On the right.
Jim, Mike Hogan from Badger 24/7. What are the biggest challenges in your mind ahead? You still have games to prepare for, and then dealing with a locker room, I imagine, is pretty shaken.
Yeah, number one is the emotion. You mentioned the players. Like, majority of these players, a huge determining factor in coming to Wisconsin is Coach CHRYST, right? So very shaken with the news. We understand that our 5-game resume this year is not what we wanted. We have not been playing up to our capabilities, and even before this news, there were some hard conversations that were had today between coaches, players, among the staff on how do we get it corrected. And so I think the emotions, being very open and real about where we currently are and what can we do to win this coming Saturday. And the timeline of this obviously is unique, stepping into this role, and just kind of how that will shake up staff dynamics, and understanding that we have to compartmentalize a lot of our emotions in order to give our players the best opportunity to win this coming week, because that's not getting moved. So that's going to be the biggest issue in the short term. In long term, there will be a lot of discussions on what we can do differently and what we need to do differently. But right now, it's how do we control the emotions, and how do we get our players to compartmentalize being a kid, going home, being a student, and then when they're in this building, being able to focus and get prepared to win a game.
Evan.
Jim, Evan Flood, 24/7 Sports. I'm assuming this isn't the way you wanted the job, but I was curious if you could just kind of talk about your emotions, coming full circle here from a player and now becoming the head coach. Is it kind of bittersweet and, in the same sense, where, not that you have to provide too many details, but, what was it like to kind of connect with Paul after that happened, and, maybe maybe what he had to say for you when he kind of passed that torch down to you.
Yeah, obviously unique circumstances to get here, and want to be very sensitive to Coach CHRYST and the conversations and the relationship we had. He has a ton of confidence in me, and he made that very clear when he hired me, and he made that very clear today in his message. This place means a lot to me. I really felt like I grew up here. I've talked about this many times. I really became who I am at the University of Wisconsin and in this football program and around so many people that are still here today. So to have an opportunity to be in this position is not one that I take lightly, and very excited for. Very mixed emotions at this point, but I feel like I can take this opportunity and help this place grow. And that's why I came back a number of years ago, and that's why I haven't left. And that's the mission that I want to continue forward with our guys, and just getting them to understand the trust, the confidence we have in this group of men, that we will get this thing going the right direction, and it's going to happen sooner than later.
Mark, down in front.
Chris, Mark Stewart from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Just wondering if you can kind of speak to some of the traits you've seen in Jim that you think will make him successful in this role.
Yeah, I don't know that I can say anything about Jim that hasn't been already well documented throughout the years. Obviously, the fit that Jim brings to this program, his competitiveness, his work ethic, those are all gimmies. Clearly, his ability to lead and his ability to teach. We're fortunate to have Jimmy on the staff, that we're in a position that we can entrust this level of responsibility and leadership to somebody like Jimmy. And so I mentioned earlier, I'm confident that there's nobody who can do it better at this moment in time than Jim. And, our collective focus, everybody around this program and in it, is to try to maximize this season for our team.
Colton.
Chris, Colt Bartholomew, Wisconsin State Journal. You mentioned that this isn't a game-by-game decision. It's not like a knee-jerk reaction. How long has this been on your mind of evaluating where the program's at and wanting to make this or make a decision to positively impact the program in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's my role to have the position of our program always on my mind, I think we just reached a point where today I felt was the right time to make that decision. And I mentioned it's not one I take lightly. It's an incredibly tough day for us all, but I'm optimistic that today's the first day of the future of this program and of the direction that we'll take it.
Evan.
Chris, maybe it's too early to know, and this is a better question for another day, but is the hope that Coach Leonhard takes this job and runs with it, or do you kind of feel like there's going to be a search after the season regardless?
Yeah, I think I owe it to this program to do a full search when the time is right. That topic, though, is not today's priority. Today's priority was to take care of the kids in this program, and from here on forward, the priority is this week to beat Northwestern and to do everything we can for the program. But that's as far as my thoughts have gotten.
Let's go, Mark, here in the front.
Jim, Mark Stewart from the Journal-Sentinel again. As far as your role and roles on the staff, will you continue to coordinate the defense in your role as interim head coach? Tell us a little bit about how you what changes might be in store for the staff that you've already figured out.
To me, it's so fresh right now. We're working through a lot of possible situations. Obviously, going to do everything in my power to make sure the defensive plan is exactly where it needs to be for this week. Whether I'm calling it or handing on the responsibilities on game day, we're not there yet. But you know, it's been an interesting afternoon. It really hasn't had enough time to settle in as far as how this thing is going to play out through the remainder of the season. But we're going to get our guys ready to play, and we're going to go out there and put a good product on the field on Saturday because our guys understand the importance of this game.